Pleased to be joined on Radio Row by another friend of the program of Helmets and Heels and 1010XL, Trevor Sikkema, the lead draft analyst for PFF, and of course, part of the PFF Stock Exchange podcast, one of my favorite listens this time of year, let alone
Thank you.
365. I know so many of our listeners echo that sentiment. Trevor, thanks so much for taking some time.
It's great to be with you. I appreciate you having me.
And of course, you are an honorary Jacksonvillian in a weird, twist of fate. You kind of claim us a little bit, although maybe not lately after the Liam Coen situation.
It is a little dicey, with the Liam Coen situation, but I tailgated once for the Jags playoff game. What was it, in 2017 when they played the Bills? And it was an incredible time. I have a lot of great friends who are Jags fans, and so I do. I root for the Jags. I do want them to do well because I have so many friends that are Jags fans who need some success. We need some success here to root for. So, and I need another playoff game to go tailgate for.
Exactly.
So that's what, it's really selfish.
If there's one thing Duval knows how to do, it's party.
100%.
You are a Tampa native. You did previously cover the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
I did.
So as much as we are going to talk prospects here and fits for the Jaguars at number 5, Trevor, I do want to start because you were one of the funnier follows in the crazy 48 hours of Liam Coen is going back to Tampa Bay.
Right.
Then he's taking a midnight flight under the cover of darkness, and then Trent Baalke's fired. What do you make league-wide the perception and now the reflection a month later of exactly what went down between the two sides?
Honestly, it's a split, but I think a lot of people just understand, this is the business, right? I mean, you're dealing with millions of dollars and millionaires and billionaires, and when things are on the line, you're just trying to negotiate things as best you can. And I'm never going to, hold anything against somebody for maximizing an opportunity to become a head coach in this league because there's only 32 in the world. And so when you have the opportunity to do that, and I can understand Liam maybe initially talking to the Jags and then maybe holding firm to Trent Baalke being the general manager, or maybe the contract number or balance of power or whatever it was, and he probably says, thank you, but no thank you. I'll go back to Tampa. A lot of familiarity there. He was probably going to have another great year as the offensive coordinator there. Probably felt like he could put another really good step forward to being a head coach in the next cycle. But then, when Shad comes back and things change and he goes, okay, we're going to be a lot more flexible to do exactly what you want, you understand why he listens, and you understand how he came to this conclusion. So obviously, the whirlwind of it of did he tell the Bucs? Did he not tell the Bucs? Whatever. It's all sort of details that we only know through reports, but it is what it is. I mean, the Buccaneers, Jason Light and Todd Bowles, they were up here at the podium at the Combine, and they're like, hey, Liam's a great coach. We wish him nothing but the best. And Liam's obviously trying to do his best job of surrounding him with the right coaching staff, obviously new general manager as well. And so it's just, it was a crazy 48 hours, like you said, but here we are. I think that Liam is going to be a good head coach.
I forget what was it. You had some sort of pirate movie. I'm blanking on which one.
Pirates of the Caribbean.
It was Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
I should know that. If there's a pirate movie, it's probably
the scene where they're going down with the ship.
Yes.
Yeah, and him saying it's just good business.
Exactly.
Just good business.
It's just good business. When it comes to the Liam Coen offense, it's going to be run here in Jacksonville. He says it's going to run through Brian Thomas Jr. What does that mean for the Jaguars here in Indianapolis and throughout the pre-draft process?
I mean, Brian Thomas Jr. obviously had a phenomenal rookie season. When he was at LSU, so I was a little bit lower on him than some other people. Not that I didn't think that he'd be a phenomenal player. I just felt as though coming out of LSU, he was very much that vertical stretching wide receiver. Really good athlete. He could stretch the field for you. I wondered how limited his route tree was going to be in the NFL. I wondered how much you could get the ball in his hands in, short yardage and short route situations. He proved to be that wide receiver 1 caliber player, even just in 1 year when he was in Jacksonville. When Liam Coen says that this is going to revolve around Brian Thomas Jr., it makes me think that he's not just going to be this outside receiver for them. I think they're also going to play him in the slot plenty, and I think that they are going to give him those manufactured touches to allow him to showcase that athleticism, not just running routes deep down the field, but also with the ball in his hands. So this is an offense in Tampa Bay that had a lot of that short stuff. I mean, they had a lot of wide receivers that they could get the ball to very quickly, but they also were able to hold on to the ball a little bit longer, let things develop down the field. I think that he sees Brian Thomas Jr. as a wide receiver to be able to do all of that. And in Tampa, it felt like, okay, well, this is more of a Chris Godwin play. This is more of a Mike Evans play. This is more of a Jalen McMillan play. It feels as though he's going to let Brian Thomas Jr. almost play all 3 of those roles at different times throughout the offense. So that, to me, is what that means when he says something like that.
Do they need another wide receiver, or do they need another tight end? Is there a fit that you say, ooh, this is a player in this year's crop of pass catchers that's a Liam Coen fit?
Yeah, I mean, I think that like Luther Burden would be great for them because I think he's another short yardage guy who you can get the ball in his hands, and I think he can make magic for you happen after the catch. It's why I also think the Jags are one of those teams that should be interested in Deebo Samuel with the San Francisco 49ers, right? Make the call. Find out what the price would be, what they could take when it comes to the cap space with him coming over and being able to do that, because I think that would also help complete that offense with Brian Thomas Jr. there. But it's those guys that I think give you something after the catch. Some of those slot players like Tez Johnson from Oregon, Xavier Restrepo from Miami. There's a handful. Get Jalen Noel from Iowa State. Like, I wonder if, okay, they're not going to draft the wide receiver at 5, at least I don't think. But it's later in the draft, you can get players like that who could be those yards after catch players for you to just allow you to have that total flexibility with Brian Thomas Jr. Because I think another reason why maybe you say, hey, he could be the total package for him, we can put him in these short yardage situations, is maybe you don't love who you have right now in that package, where maybe if you have a guy that you trust a little bit more in this rookie class, you feel like you can use him in a variety of ways.
Trevor Sikkema of PFF joining us here on Helmets and Heels. A couple more for you, Trevor. If you are James Gladstone, if you are Liam Coen, who are you selecting? The board falls your way. You can have whoever you want.
Yeah.
Who are you selecting at number 5 overall?
So I think the common one is Abdul Carter. Or not Abdul Carter, sorry. The common one is they would like for the common one to maybe be Abdul Carter, but Mason Graham. I think that Mason Graham is the guy that makes the most sense for this team. You have the ability to really complete the defensive line, especially with Arik Armstead saying like, hey, I want to play a little bit more of 3 technique stuff. I want to be able to showcase what I could do. Mason Graham is one of those players that can be versatile for you and be able to play a lot of those spots on the interior defensive line. So if you have a defensive line that's Trayvon Walker, it's Mason Graham, it's Arik Armstead, it's Josh Hines-Allen, like that is a nasty. That could be one of the best defensive lines in the NFL if you're able to bring that together. I also think about the cornerback position. I love a guy like Jahdae Barron from Texas. I love his versatility. He started playing safety, then he plays a nickel defender. This past year he played on the outside. Loved his podium section when I was just listening to him talk and his mental approach to the game and how he approaches just everything. He's such a pro. He's so mature in his game, honestly, on and off the field. He's a guy that I think is going to be a great NFL player. Will Johnson, the other corner from Michigan, I think is somebody who could make a lot of sense for this team. And you'd be setting up, one of those corners plays over here, then it's Tyson Campbell, then it's Jerry Jones in the middle. So I think that setting up one of those units to be really strong going into next year, that's where I constantly come back to when it comes to the Jags number 5.
We don't know how the board's going to fall, but I agree. I think if Mason Graham is there, I've said it multiple times here this week, I've said it multiple times over the last few weeks, he is a double off the wall, plug and play, set it and forget it.
Yes.
Now, with that said, in terms of depth at 2 of the other key spots, you mentioned corner. Interior of the offensive line is obviously another.
Yeah.
In terms of finding that starter opposite Tyson Campbell and finding a starting right guard, if you're to say goodbye to Brandon Scherf, who is a pending free agent, where do you find that depth in this year's draft?
I think the offensive line is going to be very interesting because I wouldn't say that it's not the best offensive line class, but it is very versatile. So I think team boards are going to be very different on where they view some of these players because some will view these tackles to stay at tackle, some will think that they're guards, some will think that they're centers. So it's kind of all over the place, which I think goes to the Jags' advantage, especially when you talk about rounds 2 and 3, because you get a player, for example, Gray Zabel, who played offensive tackle at North Dakota State. I don't know if he's going to be drafted in the first round because he's probably transitioning from offensive tackle to guard or center, but if they have the chance to pick him at the top of the second round, I love that. I think that's sort of like you say, you don't get a lot of plug-and-play players in the second round outside of the first round, but he is somebody who I think makes a ton of sense for them. When it comes to cornerback position, a guy who I really like, who it doesn't feel like he's got a lot of first-round buzz, but I feel could be a great cornerback too and a compliment to what the Jags have, is Trey Amos from Ole Miss. I think that a guy like Azareye'h Thomas from Florida State is also very interesting. Him and Jerry Jones played together the year before, and so they have that chemistry there with that duo along with Tyson Campbell. So I do think that there are players rounds 2 and 3 at interior offensive line and at corner that it sets the Jags up pretty well to take best player available, like whether it is, maybe they think it is one of these wide receivers, maybe they think that it's a Mason Graham, and then can stay with the corner into interior offensive line needs later on day 2. I think that could definitely be a winning game plan for the Jags this draft season.
Final one for me, and I appreciate that, Trevor, because I know there's been a lot of discrepancy among Jaguar fans, because if this is a defensive tackle class that, as Daniel Jeremiah of the NFL Network says, could have 11, 12 starters.
A lot, yeah.
To take Mason Graham at number 5, I know that that's difficult for people to wrap their head around, but I think we've agreed here, if he's the safe, cleanest player with the highest ceiling.
The Jags' needs line up really well to have a first 3-round haul, like whatever it is. You can go a lot of different ways for it. I don't know, 3 starters. It's not always a guarantee, but like at least in theory, I feel like the Jags' needs with how this class is sets up well for them to have a good return on those first 3 picks.
And you don't have to say, well, there's more DTs, I can wait.
Right.
Just take who's there.
Sure.
And if Gray's Abel's there, you definitely got to take him. I think he's going to go in the first round. But last one for me, Trevor. One thing that was identified to me during the unfortunately failed final season of Doug Peterson and has been identified throughout many conversations here in Indianapolis. The Jags need edge. If Trent Baalke did one thing right during his time, and Dave Caldwell in the final years of his time as general manager, nothing against the 2017 Jaguars, who of course provided you a very great tailgate once upon a time and a magical playoff run.
Yes.
In terms of bringing in guys who are team players, who are not, I don't want to use the word Eagle Scout because that has a negative connotation to some. They did a really good job at that. But it has really become apparent to me in a lot of conversations, both in Jacksonville and here, the Jags need that player who, while mature, has some edge.
Yeah.
Who is that guy? Because I know Mason Graham, he's a lunch pail, put your hard hat on and go to work. Who is that guy that maybe gives them edge, but it's a controlled edge, akin to Jarian Jones?
Right. I mean, like, my mind first goes to corner because it's just the position that I feel like has the most dog in it. Kobe Bryant, the corner from Texas, is the guy that comes to my mind right away. I mean, even his podium section, it was like, hey, who do you model your game after? He goes, Jalen Ramsey. So again, like, shout out the Jags when they were at their peak. And he was talking about like the things that he likes about Jalen Ramsey's game, and he's like, yeah, he talks a lot of trash too. Like, it's not just the ability to take away everything. He loves the fact that he talks a lot of trash. So he's the first guy that comes to my mind. But there's a lot of these other DBs who are very confident players. Honestly, like Abdul Carter was super confident when he was up there. So I think that playing with an edge is very, very important, especially in the secondary, getting those tone centers, and I wonder if they will feel that way about the safety position as well. I didn't get to listen to as many safeties as I would like to, so I'm going to go back and sort of listen to these podium sessions, hear who might, have that sort of confidence about them and that edge to them. But I agree with you. Having that competitive toughness and that feistiness is a very important part of having a locker room that the goal is a Super Bowl, right? It's not just to like win games and play pretty good and play up to expectation. Like, they want to beat the best, they want to go up against the best. You got to have that competitive edge to you.
As Kobe Bryant said, you need dogs.
100%.
He's a dog?
Yes.
I'm not going to say you're a dog because you're a Florida Gator, so we don't want to.
That's true.
I would
have taken it though. As long as we spell it D-O-G. Okay. And not the other way.
Okay. Not D-A-W-G.
No, we don't do that.
I think that's how Kobe was spelling it. But that's a story for another time. Trevor Sikkema, PFF, thanks so much for hopping on with us.
Thanks, Mia.
Hey, Mia here, and thanks so much for watching 1010XL Jaguars. For even more coverage of the Big Cats, be sure to subscribe to 1010XL Jaguars.